Hello, it's me, Clyde. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm glad you found your way here, wherever here happens to be for you tonight. A bed, a couch, a chair you didn't mean to fall asleep in, or maybe somewhere in between. Somewhere comfortable enough to stay for a while. Before we get too settled, just a quick thing. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel now. That way you don't have to remember later, and you can just let yourself relax as we go along. I also have a playlist with all of my boring adventures in one place. You can find it on the channel, lined up neatly, like books on a shelf that don't mind if you fall asleep halfway through them. And if you ever feel like becoming a channel member, it really does help support these quiet little trips. And you'll also get the chance to receive a personalized sleepy story from me, one that rambles just for you. Now, you don't have to do anything else. You don't need to pay close attention. You don't need to remember details. You don't even need to stay awake. Just listen as I tell you about where I am now. I'm sitting near a frozen canal in Amsterdam. It's sometime in the 1600s, one of those winters when the cold doesn't just arrive, says it settles in. The kind of cold that lingers politely but firmly, like it has nowhere else to be. The canal beside me is completely frozen over. Thick ice, the reliable kind. The kind people trust with their weight, their laughter, their mistakes. Skaters pass by in quiet glides and sudden wobbles. Wooden skates strapped onto boots that have seen better years. Some people move confidently, arms relaxed, like they've been doing this since they could walk. Others look as though they're negotiating with the ice, asking it very nicely not to embarrass them. A child skates past and lifts a mittened hand in a wave. It might be for me, or it might be for someone behind me. Or maybe it's just the kind of wave that doesn't need a destination. I don't wave back right away. Not because I'm rude, just because I'm still deciding if I'm part of the scene, or just another quiet detail in it. Behind the canal, tall, narrow houses lean slightly toward one another as if sharing secrets. Smoke curls lazily from chimneys. Somewhere, a door creaks open and closes again, followed by the sound of someone shaking snow from their boots with more enthusiasm than necessary. A dog trots past on the ice, nails clicking nervously, stopping every few steps to reconsider its life choices. And I stay where I am, sitting, watching, letting the cold air do its slow work. This is one of those moments where nothing urgent is happening, which is exactly the sort of moment I tend to find myself in. And if you listen closely, you might start to feel that nothing urgent is required of you either. The ice makes a sound when someone skates too hard on it. Not a crack, not a warning, just a low, distant groan, like the canal is stretching its back after a long nap. People pause when it happens, just for a moment. Heads tilt, eyebrows lift. Then, almost as if everyone silently agrees not to mention it, they continue on. I watch a man glide past carrying a long pole. He taps the ice ahead of him every few steps, not because it's necessary anymore, but because habits tend to outlive their usefulness. His coat is thick and unevenly patched, the sleeves darker at the cuffs where hands have wiped themselves for years. Further down the canal, someone has set up a small table directly on the ice. No legs, just a flat board resting confidently on the frozen surface. On it sits a basket of apples, a few wrapped pastries, and a brass bell that rings whenever someone stops to buy something they probably weren't planning to. A woman laughs when she slips. A man pretends he meant to do that. They both recover with dignity, or something close to it. Near my feet, straw has been scattered to give grip where the canal meets the bank. A few ducks stand there, confused by the arrangement. One steps onto the ice, panics slightly, and retreats back to the straw, as if reporting to the others that it is not yet duck-friendly. Amsterdam winters like this aren't rare in this century. The canals freeze often enough that the city adjusts. Goods move across ice instead of water. Letters are delivered faster. People take routes they'd never risk in warmer months. Someone passes by dragging a small sled loaded with firewood. The wood bumps rhythmically over uneven patches, thump, 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 like a slow heartbeat. I realize I've been sitting very still for a long time. Not because I'm trying to blend in, just because nothing has told me to move yet. Across the canal, a pair of boys are racing. Their skates scrape loudly, arms windmilling, one of them shouting rules that the other clearly never agreed to. They collide gently and fall into a heap of laughter and limbs, sliding a short distance before friction remembers it exists. A man nearby shakes his head and mutters something about children and winters and how both used to be tougher. He says this while adjusting his scarf for the third time in under a minute. Behind me, a church bell rings the hour. The sound carries cleanly over the ice, echoing off buildings and bridges, stretching farther than it would in summer. Time feels wider here, less crowded. I glance down at the canal's surface, clouded with snow and skater marks, and think about how many ordinary days it has held like this. Not festivals, not paintings, just people getting through winter without much ceremony. That's usually where the interesting parts hide, anyway. I shift my weight slightly, feeling the cold through the layers beneath me, and settle back in. There's still plenty of evening left, and the ice isn't in a hurry. The light changes gradually, not in a dramatic way, just enough that you notice it has, and then wonder how long it's been that way already. The sky above the canal is a pale winter gray, brushed with faint peach near the horizon where the sun is deciding whether it's done for the day or just taking a long break. The buildings along the water seem to lean in closer as the light fades, their tall windows reflecting dull silver instead of gold. Someone nearby is roasting chestnuts. I don't see the fire at first, just the smell drifting past. Warm and nutty and slightly smoky. It doesn't belong to winter, but it fits there anyway like a friendly mistake. A man stands near a low brazier, warming his hands more often than the chestnuts, occasionally remembering to stir them. A woman skates past holding a candle lantern. The flame inside flickers nervously every time she glides too quickly, and she slows down to reassure it. I don't think that's why she slows down, but I like the idea that it might be. A pair of older men sit on a bench that has been dragged right onto the ice near the bank. They're playing a board game balanced between them, the pieces heavy enough not to slide away. One of them squints at the board for a long time before making a move that the other immediately questions. They argue quietly, politely, with the sort of patience that comes from having argued about the same things for many years already. In this century, winters like this turn the canals into public squares. Business is conducted here. Gossip travels faster. People linger because there's nowhere else they'd rather be that's warmer. A group of skaters passes carrying a small wooden crate. Inside, something clinks softly. Bottles, probably. They move carefully, not because the ice is thin, but because glass is always more fragile than confidence. A cat appears from somewhere I didn't see it come from. It steps onto the ice, pauses, lifts one paw, then another, each movement deliberate and suspicious. After 3 steps, it sits down abruptly, offended by the entire situation. I smile without meaning to. I notice that when I'm quiet long enough, people stop noticing me entirely. They skate around me, talk past me, exist without checking whether I belong. That's usually when the world feels most honest. Somewhere, someone coughs. Somewhere else, someone drops a glove and doesn't notice until they're halfway across the canal. A boy tries to slide the glove back to them with his skate and sends it spinning too far, apologizing to no one in particular. Smoke drifts upward from chimneys and disappears into the cold sky as if it had somewhere important to be. I shift slightly, resting my hands together, feeling the stillness of the moment settle in deeper. This is not a scene anyone would rush through, and thankfully, no one is trying to. As evening settles in properly, the cold seems to deepen. Not sharply, just steadily, like it's remembering its job. Lanterns begin to appear one by one along the canal. Some hang from hooks on poles, others are carried carefully, and a few sit right on the ice, placed there with confidence and optimism. Their light reflects off the frozen surface in soft, stretched shapes that wobble slightly every time someone skates past. I notice a man taking the long way around the canal instead of crossing directly over the ice. He walks along the edge, boots crunching through snow and straw, following the curve instead of the shortcut. It takes him much longer, but he doesn't seem bothered by that at all. He stops twice to greet people, once to adjust the strap on a sack slung over his shoulder, once to watch a group of skaters pass, nodding as if he approves of their technique. In the 1600s, Amsterdam is busy becoming something important. Trade flows through its ports. Ships come and go, carrying spices, textiles, stories, and misunderstandings from faraway places. Some of that wealth reaches these streets, some of it doesn't, but everyone feels the movement of it, even here on the ice. A group of men skates past, talking about herring prices. Another group argues about whether the ice will hold through the next week. Someone insists it always does. Someone else insists it never does. Neither seems particularly concerned with being right. Nearby, a woman adjusts the layers on a bundled child, tucking fabric in here, tightening something there, the practiced motions of someone who has done this many winters in a row. The child wiggles free just long enough to escape onto the ice, immediately slipping and laughing, which seems to count as success. I follow the movement of the canal with my eyes, letting it guide my thoughts wherever it wants to go. Bridges arch gently overhead. Their stone edges are dusted with snow, softened by time and weather, and footsteps that no one remembers anymore. I think about how many people have stood exactly where I am now. Not famous ones, just ordinary people, waiting for something small, waiting for someone, waiting for nothing in particular. A bell rings again. Not the church this time, but a handbell, shaken by someone announcing hot drinks. Steam rises from the cups as they're passed from mittened hand to mittened hand. Coins clink. Someone fumbles and drops one, and the coin skitters across the ice farther than anyone expects. There's a brief, polite chase. It ends when a boy traps the coin with his skate and hands it back solemnly, like he's returning something sacred. I shift slightly again, stretching my legs, listening to the layered sounds of the evening, blades on ice, distant voices, the soft hush of breath in cold air. Nothing here is rushing me, and for a while, I don't rush either. The evening settles into itself. That's the best way I can describe it. Not ending, not beginning, just settling. People begin doing quieter things on the ice. Less racing, more standing still. Conversations grow longer, voices soften, the kind of soft that comes from knowing the cold will listen to whatever you say anyway. Near the edge of the canal, a man kneels beside a pair of skates, tightening leather straps with fingers that move carefully, as though they've learned not to rush winter. He hums something under his breath. Not a song exactly, more like the idea of one. Each time he pulls the strap snug, he exhales slowly, fog blooming around his face. A woman nearby is mending a glove, right there on the ice, needle flashing briefly in the lantern light. She pauses often to warm her hands near a small coal pan, then goes back to her careful stitches. The glove looks like it's been repaired many times before and will likely need repairing again tomorrow. This is the century of quiet work. Amsterdam in the 1600s hums with trade and ambition, but most of it still comes down to small motions repeated daily, stitch by stitch, strap by strap, day by day. The grand things are built from very patient hands. A barge sits frozen in place nearby, its cargo untouched until the thaw. Someone has laid planks across it to make a place to sit. Two men drink something dark from shared cups, talking about ships that didn't make it back this season. They don't sound bitter, just observant. A goose wanders past with surprising confidence, head bobbing as if it owns the canal. It stops near a dropped crust of bread, inspects it thoroughly, then ignores it completely. Standards, apparently, are important. I pull my cloak a little tighter without thinking, letting the weight of it settle around my shoulders. The fabric smells faintly of smoke and wool and thyme, all very reliable things. A group of skaters drifts by, slower now, arms linked. One of them tells a story that keeps getting interrupted by laughter before it reaches the end. It never does reach the end. No one seems bothered by that. I realize that if I stood up and left now, nothing here would change very much. Someone else would sit where I am. Someone else would watch. Someone else would feel this moment pass quietly through them. And somehow, that feels comforting. The cold presses in gently, like a reminder to stay present, to notice small warmth when it appears, to enjoy it without expecting it to last. I let my hands rest in my lap, watching breath drift into the air and vanish again. There's still time, plenty of it. As the night deepens, the canal takes on a different voice. Not louder, just clearer. Skate blades whisper instead of scrape now, their rhythm more deliberate. Conversations thin out into pairs and trios, the kind of talks meant only for the people having them. Laughter still appears, but softer, like it's been wrapped in wool before being released into the air. Somewhere behind me, a door opens and closes. The sound echoes briefly between buildings and then disappears, swallowed by distance and ice. I imagine someone stepping inside, shaking snow from their coat, relieved to be out of the cold, and just a little reluctant to leave the night behind. A man passes carrying a bundle of reeds over his shoulder. They stick out at odd angles, brushing lightly against anyone who gets too close. He apologizes often. No one seems upset. Reeds are useful things. Floors, roofs, baskets, everything practical seems to begin with something humble like that. On the ice, a small group has gathered around a lantern placed directly on the frozen surface. The flame flickers, reflected endlessly beneath it, like the ice is holding a second, quieter sky underneath everyone's feet. They talk about nothing important, or maybe everything important. It's hard to tell the difference sometimes. In the distance, I hear singing. Not a performance, just a few voices, uncertain and drifting apart and back together again. Someone misses a note. Someone laughs about it. They keep going anyway. The song stretches thin over the canal, fragile but stubborn. This city knows how to endure winter. Amsterdam has learned that if you wait for comfort to arrive before living, you'll miss most of your life. So people bring warmth with them, in voices, in habits, in small shared moments that don't ask for much. A dog trots past with something unidentifiable in its mouth. It looks pleased. No one questions it. A cat watches from the edge of the ice, tail tucked neatly around its paws, unimpressed by everything. I notice how my own breathing has slowed without me asking it to. Each inhale feels deeper. Each exhale lingers longer in the cold air before fading away. This is the part of the evening where time stretches. Minutes don't hurry. Thoughts wander and return. Nothing insists on being resolved. I lean back slightly, letting my weight settle more fully, listening to the layered sounds. Ice, voices, distant bells, wind threading through narrow streets. If this moment were to last a little longer than expected, I don't think anyone would object. By now, the canal feels older than it did earlier. Not because anything has changed, but because everything has settled into place. The ice bears the marks of the day. Long arcs from confident skaters, shallow scratches from hesitant ones, scattered footprints where people stepped off to rest or think or adjust a strap that didn't feel quite right. It looks less like a surface and more like a record, a quiet memory of movement. A man stops not far from me and kneels to test the ice with the end of his pole. He taps once, then again. Each sound is dull and reassuring. Satisfied, he stands and continues on, already thinking about something else. Further down the canal, a small group gathers near a bridge. Someone has brought out a fiddle. The music is thin at first, like it's not sure whether it's welcome. Then it grows steadier. People slow their skating to listen. A few stop entirely, blades planted, heads tilted slightly toward the sound. No one claps when the tune ends. They just let it fade. This is how things linger here. Not announced, not concluded, just allowed to exist until they're ready to leave. Amsterdam has learned patience from its water. Canals dug carefully. Land reclaimed inch by inch. Homes built narrow and tall, rising slowly, adjusting as they go. Nothing rushed, everything negotiated. A boy passes dragging a small sled with a sack of something heavy inside. It bumps behind him, leaving a faint trail on the ice. He stops every so often to rest, pretending he meant to admire the view. No one calls him out on it. A woman crosses the canal carrying a bundle of laundry balanced carefully in her arms. The cloth is stiff from the cold, folded more for manageability than neatness. She walks instead of skates, steps measured, trusting the ice because she has no other choice. I notice how my thoughts wander more freely now, drifting without urgency. I follow them for a while, then let them go. They don't mind. The cold doesn't feel sharp anymore, just present, a steady companion rather than something to endure. I rest my hands together, listening to the faint creak beneath distant movement. Not a warning, just the sound of a city breathing through winter. Moments like this don't ask to be remembered. They simply happen, and somehow, that's enough. The night has settled fully now, not suddenly. It eased in, step by step, the way winter always does here. Lanterns glow brighter against the dark, their reflections stretching long and thin across the ice like careful brush strokes. Windows along the canal flicker with candlelight, each one holding a small private world behind glass. The skaters move more slowly now. Some have gone home, others circle lazily, not ready to let the evening end just yet. A few stand talking in clusters, skates planted wide for balance, voices low and thoughtful. Near the bridge, someone feeds crumbs to a pair of birds that probably shouldn't still be awake. The birds accept the offering with quiet seriousness, pecking carefully, pausing often to look around as if aware they are participating in something slightly improper. I hear footsteps behind me, not on ice, but on stone. Someone walking the canal edge, taking care with each step. The sound fades as they pass, replaced again by the soft hush of wind moving through narrow streets. Amsterdam listens at night. It listens to the water beneath the ice, still moving, still patient. It listens to voices drifting from taverns where warmth and stories gather in equal measure. It listens to the slow creak of wood and rope and history holding itself together. A man pauses near the center of the canal and looks up at the sky. He stays there longer than necessary, hands resting at his sides, breath rising in small clouds. I wonder what he's thinking about, or if he's thinking at all. Sometimes it's enough just to stand somewhere quiet and let the world continue around you. A woman passes carrying a bundle wrapped in cloth. She hums softly, almost to herself. The tune has no clear beginning or end. It simply exists, drifting along with her until it fades into the night. I shift my shoulders slightly, adjusting my cloak again, more out of habit than need. The cold has become familiar now, predictable, almost gentle. I find myself matching my breathing to the slow rhythm of the city. Inhale, pause, exhale, pause, as if Amsterdam itself is setting the pace. Nothing is asking for attention, nothing is demanding a response. And for a moment, it feels like the city is listening back, content to let me sit here as long as I like. There's a stretch of time in the evening when nothing new arrives, no announcements, no changes, just a widening pause. The canal feels quieter now, not empty, just settled. Fewer skaters pass by, and those who do move carefully, as if they've agreed to keep their distance from the silence. Lanterns remain where they were placed, their flames steady now, having decided they're not going anywhere. A man stands near the center of the ice, holding a cup with both hands, not drinking from it, just warming his fingers. Steam rises slowly, drifting sideways before dissolving into the dark. He stares down at the ice, lost in thought, or maybe just enjoying the way the light bends beneath his feet. Somewhere nearby, someone yawns without trying to hide it. That feels important. A small group begins packing up a table that had been set out earlier. The basket is emptier now. The bell no longer rings. One person brushes crumbs from the surface, while another counts coins twice, just to be sure. They move slowly, not because they're tired, but because there's no reason not to. I shift my position slightly, feeling the straw beneath me compress and settle again. It makes a faint sound, dry and soft, like the memory of warmth. My shoulders relax without me asking them to. In the distance, a bridge creaks gently as someone crosses it. The sound travels along the canal, stretched thin by cold air, until it fades into something barely noticeable. Amsterdam seems to breathe more deeply at this hour. The city isn't trying to impress anyone now. The work of the day is done. The ice has held. The cold has been negotiated. What's left is simply presence. A cat appears again. Possibly the same one from earlier. Possibly a different one entirely. Cats are like that. It pauses at the edge of the canal, tail flicking once, then curls into itself as if the night has finally convinced it to rest. I find my thoughts slowing even further, spacing themselves out like stepping stones set far apart. There's room between them now, enough space to rest. Nothing needs to be decided, nothing needs to be remembered exactly. This moment isn't asking anything from me, and it isn't asking anything from you either. The cold changes character late at night. It doesn't leave, it just softens. The sharp edges fade, replaced by something steadier, almost companionable. The kind of cold that wraps around you instead of pushing in. The kind that reminds you where you are but doesn't demand that you hurry away. Only a few skaters remain now. Their movements are careful and unshowy, tracing gentle paths across the ice as if they're trying not to disturb it. Each glide feels deliberate, respectful. The canal has done its job for the day, and everyone seems to understand that. A man stops near the edge and removes his skates, rubbing his feet briskly before slipping back into boots. He sighs, not from discomfort, but from the simple effort of finishing something. He gathers his skates under one arm and walks off, leaving faint wet marks that slowly fade behind him. Somewhere farther down, a lantern is lifted and carried away. Its reflection stretches, breaks, and disappears, leaving a darker patch of ice behind. The night adjusts without complaint. I tilt my head slightly, listening. The city sounds are fewer now, but clearer. A distant door closes. A muffled laugh escapes a tavern and is quickly pulled back inside. Wind slides between buildings, brushing along the canal like it's checking to see who's still awake. Amsterdam looks different when it knows most people are done for the day. The tall houses seem less imposing, more like guardians than observers. Their windows glow softly, unevenly, each one marking a different rhythm of life winding down. I rest my hands together again, fingers warming slowly, and let my gaze wander across the ice one last time. The surface has quieted. No new marks, just the layered memory of earlier motion, frozen in place. This is the hour where nothing new is expected, and because of that, everything feels complete. I stay where I am a little longer than necessary, simply because I can, simply because the night hasn't told me otherwise. The canal is nearly empty now, not completely. Just enough people remain to prove that the night is still awake somewhere. Their movements are slow, thoughtful, unannounced. No one glides quickly anymore. No one calls out. Even the ice seems content to hold what little weight is left upon it without comment. A lantern near the center of the canal flickers once and steadies again. Its reflection stretches long and thin, then softens as the flame calms. The people gathered near it speak in murmurs, the kind that don't travel far. Whatever they're saying is meant to stay close. I sit a little longer than I probably need to. There's no reason to hurry. No signal has arrived to tell me otherwise. The cold rests against me evenly now, familiar enough to ignore, gentle enough to accept. My breath moves slowly, fog forming and fading in a rhythm that feels borrowed from the city itself. Amsterdam at night feels like it's holding something delicate. The tall houses stand quietly along the canal, their windows glowing unevenly, each light marking a different ending to a different day. Somewhere inside, someone sets a cup down carefully. Somewhere else, a chair is pushed back. Somewhere farther still, a voice lowers so as not to wake anyone already asleep. The ice beneath the canal does not complain. It creaks once, softly, not as a warning, but as acknowledgement, as if it knows it has done well tonight, as if it's ready to rest too. I watch a final skater pass beneath the bridge. Their silhouette stretches and shrinks with the lantern light, then disappears entirely on the far side. The sound of blades fades. The canal exhales. For a moment, nothing moves at all. And in that stillness, it feels safe to let go of whatever you were holding on to earlier. Thoughts loosen, muscles soften. The night doesn't ask for attention anymore. It simply offers space. I lower my gaze to my hands, resting quietly in my lap. That's when I feel it, the smooth, familiar shape resting against my palm, small enough to fit there comfortably. Warm, just slightly, despite the cold. The stone sits quietly in my hand, its surface catching a faint glow, no brighter than it needs to be. A gentle hum settles in, soft and patient, like it has all the time in the world. I close my fingers around it slowly. There's no rush. If you're still listening, you don't need to follow me anywhere. You can stay right here, listening to the quiet, to the distant lantern light, to the way the night has softened everything around you. You can let your eyes close. You can gently fall asleep while the canal rests, while the city breathes, while the ice holds steady just a little longer. And whenever you're ready, tonight or another night, you can listen to more of these sleepy, boring adventures. You'll find them waiting in the playlist, wandering quietly through time, never in a hurry. I'll be back again soon, with another place, another evening, and another perfectly uneventful moment to share. For now, rest.